Chosen ones. Danger is in the air because your very existence has flipped the script. The streets don't just notice you anymore, they fear you. You've become the unsilenceable voice. The firebrand truth teller, whose presence alone cracks open every polished lie. Psychologists admit it. When divine frequency fuses with unshakable conviction, it shakes people to their core. That's why conversations freeze the moment your name is spoken. Why powerful men and women shift nervously in boardrooms, praying your shadow doesn't fall across their secrets. You are no longer a person to them. You are a living disruption. A holy threat to everything built on deception. Comment 777 if you know you carry that same disruptive power. If you feel heaven's fire rising in you even now. And to those who've stood with this channel, especially through your super thanks, hear me when I say, your support is the backbone of this movement. And I honor you deeply, but lean in closer, because the truth they've tried to bury is about to be dragged into the light. The very thing they hoped you'd never discover is the very thing that will set you free. God's chosen ones. Streets fear you now, the truth teller they can't silence. What makes authority figures tremble isn't just your unshakable courage. It's the echo of your courage that reverberates through the hearts of others, igniting their own flames of defiance. You have sparked a transformation, a domino effect that started with a single act of bravery and is now shaping a movement that no one can stop. Your singular voice has multiplied into a chorus of truth tellers, shaking the very foundations of those who thought they were untouchable. It's as if your presence alone now sets the stage for a new era. The streets buzz with your name. In coffee shops, people talk about the time you exposed that corrupt supervisor who thought they could operate with impunity. In university hallways, students quietly exchange stories of how you took down that professor who once used their power to manipulate others. In corporate boardrooms, when your name is mentioned, executives freeze, unsure of how to react. Their collective unease is palpable because your bold stance against discrimination has created a ripple that can no longer be ignored. Your reputation has become a mark of authenticity in a world filled with masks. People now look to you as a living example of what it means to stand for truth. The righteous will flourish like a palm tree. They will grow like a cedar of Lebanon. Psalm 92:12. It's no wonder that when you walk into a room, the genuine souls are drawn to you like magnets, while the deceitful ones shrink back, their masks slipping. You've become a detector of character, more accurate than any background check, because your very presence exposes the truth that lies hidden beneath the surface. This power you carry now, the authority that comes with your name, has become a weapon of divine purpose. Your name strikes fear, not only in those you've confronted, but in those who hear of you. In rooms you've never even stepped into, you have become the embodiment of truth, and it cannot be denied. But this is merely the beginning of the seismic shift you've set in motion. But the path of the righteous is like the light of dawn, which shines brighter and brighter until full day. Proverbs 4:18. What happened when you first stood up, when you spoke the truth in those rooms where others remained silent, wasn't just a singular victory. No. You were laying the groundwork for a series of revelations that would shake the very walls of injustice. And now, those who are wise will shine like the brightness of the heavens, and those who lead many to righteousness, like the stars forever and ever. Daniel 12:3. the pattern that has unfolded around you, the way authority figures who once seemed unshakable now stumble, will soon make perfect sense. The fake smiles, the insincere gestures of concern, they can no longer hide behind their facades when you walk in. The walls are crumbling, the masks are slipping, and you, God's chosen one, are standing tall. The truth they can't silence. In life, people often forget the power of one voice. But a person standing alone can be attacked and defeated. But two can stand back to back and conquer. Three are even better. For a triple braided cord is not easily broken. Ecclesiastes 4:12. You have built a coalition of truth seekers, and now that chain cannot be broken. The real question is, are they ready for the light you are bringing? When truth enters a room, it does not whisper, it roars. And now, the world is hearing it loud and clear. This is just the beginning, and your journey will only gain momentum from here. The authority you've claimed is not just yours, it's divinely ordained. Stand firm. Stay bold. Because the storm you've started is just the prelude to the change you're about to bring. For the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. Habakkuk 2:14. And you, my friend, are the vessel through which that glory will shine. The moment you step into a room, everything shifts. It's as though the very air becomes heavy, and all eyes instinctively dart towards you. Their tone shifts, their posture tightens, and the once confident and powerful figures begin performing, desperately trying to hide the truth they've worked so hard to conceal. But you see it all, effortlessly, for nothing is hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. Luke 8:17. You hear the pauses, the gaps in their words, the things they don't say. Your gaze pierces through their lies like a beam of light cutting through darkness. It's not just that you can see through their deceit, it's that you know the truth. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Proverbs 9:10. You've become a force of nature that refuses to tolerate manipulation, even if it's wrapped in smiles and authority. You call out silent abuse. You expose what others are too afraid to confront. That's why they avoid your gaze, change the topic, or try to twist the story before you even speak. They know that the moment you speak, their illusion is shattered. Your mere presence has become an accountability system that no one asked for, but everyone now fears. For the Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth come knowledge and understanding. Proverbs 2-6. It used to be that systems of corruption thrived in the shadows, hidden behind politeness and status. They relied on social niceties to protect their harmful behaviors. But you've disrupted that ecosystem by refusing to prioritize comfort over truth. What happens when the darkness is exposed and the light of truth cannot be ignored? How many times have you witnessed someone stutter, stumble over their own words, or contradict themselves when they're confronted by the raw truth you carry? The mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life. Proverbs 10:11. It's as if they can't help but reveal themselves in your presence. You've become a walking lie detector, one that doesn't need interrogation or force. Your energy demands honesty from those around you. And when they try to deceive, it's like the truth escapes them involuntarily. And yet, there are those who will never stop trying to keep their masks intact. Think of those like Judas Iscariot, who betrayed a friend with a kiss, hiding behind the facade of loyalty while plotting betrayal, the same way he sought to deceive and mislead. Today, there are manipulators who attempt to twist the narrative, They'll smile and act as if everything is fine. But deep down, they know the truth will eventually come to light. They plot evil with deception. They speak with lying tongues. Psalm 50-19. These are the ones who fear your very presence, because they know they can't hide their true intentions from you. And then, in your unwavering pursuit of truth, you become something that's never been seen before. A living, breathing, Indeniable force. Your presence ignites a fire that burns away the deceit, leaving only the raw, unvarnished truth. The streets talk about you now. The world is watching. And your name carries power in places you've never even been. When you walk into a room, it's as if you've turned on a light, and all the cockroaches scurry for cover. For the word of the Lord is right and true. He is faithful in all he does. Psalm 33-4. How do you keep standing in a world where others would crumble? What strength does it take to continue speaking when silence would be easier? The shift you've caused is just the beginning. You've awakened something in those around you. A desire to speak the truth, to challenge the unjust, and to live authentically. For the Lord watches over the way of the righteous. Psalm 1-6. You've become a beacon for those who have been silenced, a lighthouse in a storm of lies. Your truth will shine through the darkest of nights, and it cannot be dimmed. Just like the serpent in the Garden of Eden, the deceivers can't escape the truth you wield. They try to sidestep it. They try to avoid it. But they cannot silence it. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1-5. They will try to silence you, but their attempts will only expose them more. In the end, the truth you speak will stand as the testimony to the power of honesty and integrity in a world that thrives on deception. Now, this is your moment. Stand tall, for the world is waiting for your light. And remember, a person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but two can stand back to back and conquer. Three are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. Ecclesiastes 4:12. You are not alone. You are part of a greater, divine plan. What happens when divine purpose meets human deception? You've spoken up in rooms where silence was the price of safety. You've made people uncomfortable, not by attacking, but simply by refusing to play along. And what you may not realize yet is that your refusal to participate is louder than any speech. A defiance in its purest form. For nothing is hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. Luke 8:17. Your presence in those rooms, your stillness, the way you refuse to engage in the false narrative, speaks volumes. You are the pause that forces people to rethink. You are the moment of stillness in a world consumed by noise. Like a leaf drifting on a still pond, your presence makes waves in the most unsuspecting places. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Proverbs 9:10. And wisdom is feared by those who profit from ignorance. You hold mirrors up to faces too, used to seeing only what's convenient. And in that reflection, they are forced to confront the truth they have long avoided. Have they ever stopped to wonder what it would be like if they didn't hide from the truth? Or have they simply become too comfortable with the lies? Your individual acts of courage were not just simple steps forward. They were laying the foundation for something much larger. The path of the righteous is like the first gleam of dawn, shining ever brighter till the full light of day. Proverbs 4:18. Every time you stood tall, every moment you refused to stay silent, you were building towards this. This wasn't about making waves. You are the wave. Your truth moves through people like a flood, leaving nothing untouched. Some may try to resist it, pretending it didn't happen. But deep down, even the most corrupt know something has changed. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Galatians 6-7. But let's not forget, even the simplest of people can have the most profound impact. Take someone like Malala Yousafzai, a young girl who spoke out against oppression, a lone voice in a world determined to silence her. She wasn't born with a title or an army, yet her refusal to stay silent shattered the chains of ignorance. And now, her name is synonymous with courage. This is the power of your silence. It's not ignorance, it's calculation. Your refusal to engage in the chaos forces them to question their own motives. The mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life. Proverbs 10:11. And when you remain quiet, it's not weakness, it's power. Because silence speaks louder than any words ever could. What does it say about a world that fears silence, that fears the truth? Have we lost sight of the value of clarity in a world addicted to distortion? You didn't enter those rooms with an agenda. You entered with clarity. And clarity is a dangerous thing in a world that thrives on confusion. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Psalm 27:1. Corrupt systems fear your eyes because they cannot hide their lies from you. The manipulators fear your silence because it's not ignorance, it's precision. You wait, you watch, and when you speak, it's not to wound, it's to reveal. That is what makes power structures afraid. You don't shout to be heard, you speak to be felt. When you're around, the room changes. Think about it, even in the most subtle situations. How does it feel when someone with the truth steps into a conversation filled with half-truths? It's as if the air thickens with anticipation, because they know you know. This is the power of clarity. It creates a ripple effect that can't be ignored. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1-5. In this world of deceit, you've become the light that forces the darkness to retreat. Now, ask yourself this. In a world that thrives on manipulation and lies, how do you stand unwavering, revealing truth without apology? Is it possible to remain unaffected by the lies that swirl around you? What strength must you possess to live in this world and still choose to be the light? Once truth is felt, it cannot be forgotten. It becomes an indelible force that cannot be erased. Authority may call it tension. Corruption may label it drama. But what you bring is justice in its purest form, uncomfortable, Indeniable, and utterly necessary. But the Lord watches over the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked leads to destruction. Psalm 1-6. The truth you carry doesn't just speak, it transforms. And the world will never be the same after it is spoken. You didn't set out to be a protector, yet you became one. The moment you refused to stay silent, when others turned away, you turned toward the fire. For the eyes of the Lord range throughout the earth to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to Him. 2 Chronicles 16-9. When everyone else pretended not to see the burning truth, you locked eyes with it. And in that moment, everything changed. You stood your ground. And that decision sent shockwaves that others can't undo. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to stand alone in a room filled with opposition, yet still remain unwavering? Have you felt the weight of those moments when you choose to speak truth, and the world stands still for a breath? Your very presence has become a force that changes the dynamic wherever you go. People now prepare differently for meetings when they know you will be there. Conversations take on a new weight, shifting in tone as they anticipate your involvement. The righteous are as bold as a lion, Proverbs 28:1. The dishonest no longer move freely. They begin rehearsing their explanations because they know your gaze will cut through their facades. Their defenses weaken when they face the inexorable truth you bring. You've become a storm. But unlike the storms of nature, your storm isn't visible to the eye. It's a storm of truth and integrity. And corrupt systems are terrified of it. They constantly track your every move, adjusting their behavior like a predator that senses danger. They know they can no longer operate in the shadows when you are around. And even the most deceptive feel the weight of your presence. For the Lord is righteous. He loves justice. The upright will see his face. Psalm 11:7. They know that the truth has already been set in motion, and they cannot stop it. What does it mean to wield such a power, not through force, but through truth, to hold a light so bright that no shadow can survive? What kind of courage does it take to be the one who walks into the darkest of rooms and still refuses to bend? What's more remarkable is the ripple effect you've sparked. Your actions have become stories retold in places you've never been. Your courage has been passed on like a baton, quietly changing the course of others' lives in ways you will never know. And the truth will set you free. John 8:32. A parent stands up to bullying at school, remembering the example you set. A community member challenges local corruption. Your truth has become theirs, and it spreads beyond your reach. Just like the timeless works of Michelangelo, whose David was sculpted not from a flawless block, but from an imperfect one. Your truth was not born from ease, but from struggle. A masterpiece is not created by mere hands, but by the courage of the heart. The courage to shape what others would have discarded into something beautiful. Your courage has carved out the space for others to stand with you, to confront the lies and face the truth together. And so, in this moment, you are standing at the threshold of something greater. The power you hold, an unyielding force of truth, is not for you alone. It's for those who can no longer remain silent. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Matthew 5:14. Your light, once ignited, will blaze brighter than ever before. Your moment is now. Stand firm in your truth, for the world is watching. Your courage has unlocked doors that were once closed, and now you walk through them. Unstoppable. Once truth is felt, it cannot be forgotten. It becomes an indelible force, a mark that cannot be erased. Authority may call it tension. Corruption may call it drama. But what you bring is justice in its purest form, uncomfortable, Indeniable, and utterly necessary. But the Lord watches over the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked leads to destruction. Psalm 1-6. What you carry isn't just an uncomfortable moment, it is a force that shakes the very ground beneath the feet of those who dare to walk in falsehood. You didn't set out to be a protector, yet by standing for truth, you became one. The moment you refused to stay silent when others turned away, you turned toward the fire. For the eyes of the Lord range throughout the earth to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to Him. 2 Chronicles 16-9. When everyone else pretended not to see the truth, you locked eyes with it and stood firm. And from that moment, everything changed. You didn't just speak, you defended. What becomes of those who defend the truth when the world is bent on ignoring it? Some people are not afraid of lies. The corrupter fears what happens when someone finally calls out their deception. You've stood in rooms where injustice dressed itself in politeness, masked as civility. You've heard mocking disguised as humor, disrespect hidden under the guise of jokes, cruelty smoothed over with fake apologies. And instead of letting it slide, you spoke. Maybe you didn't raise your voice. Maybe you didn't need to. Your words, sharp and unwavering, cut through the noise like a blade. You didn't make it personal, you made it known. Take, for instance, King Ahab and his wife Jezebel. Their reign was built on deception, manipulation, and the oppression of the vulnerable. Ahab, in his greed, believed his position gave him the right to take what didn't belong to him, and Jezebel enabled it, plotting the murder of an innocent man just to steal his land. They thought their power was invincible. But when the prophet Elijah stepped forward to confront them, their false security was shattered. The wicked flee, though no one pursues, but the righteous are as bold as a lion. Proverbs 28:1. Elijah did not flinch. He stood tall and declared God's judgment, and the consequences were swift and devastating. Ahab died in battle, and Jezebel was thrown from a window, trampled by horses and eaten by dogs. The corrupt systems they built crumbled beneath the weight of their own deceit. They thought they could escape, but truth caught up with them, and their power was undone. In your own life, you've confronted similar forces. In your workplace, you checked a supervisor who thought their title gave them permission to dehumanize others. In your family, you shut down a relative who always crossed the line and laughed it off like it was harmless. The righteous person will live by his faithfulness. Habakkuk 2-4. In your social circles, you defended someone everyone else conveniently forgot. You were the one to draw the line in the sand when everyone else was waiting for someone else to act. What does it say about a world where people are so quick to accept the lies, to avoid confrontation? How much longer can the corrupt hide behind their positions of power before truth reveals them for who they truly are? And now, your courage is no longer contained within the walls you once knew. It has become a movement. Your influence has rippled far beyond what you can see. A parent stands up to bullying because they remembered your example. A community member challenges local corruption because your stand showed them it was possible. And the truth will set you free. John 8:32. Your actions, your words, have become their own, sparking change in places you'll never visit. The power you wield isn't for you alone, it's for everyone who has yet to speak out. For every silent voice waiting for the courage to rise. You stand as a beacon of what is possible when truth refuses to back down. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Matthew 5:14. Your light has pierced through the darkness, and now there's no going back. The consequences for those who once thought they could hide in the shadows are inevitable. The truth, once spoken, will always find a way to be heard. And when you did it, everything shifted. You made enemies not because you were cruel, but because you told the truth in rooms built on denial. For nothing is hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. Luke 8:17. You did not set out to make enemies, but you did make an undeniable impact, because some people have never been held accountable in their lives. And when you walked into their spaces, the immunity they thought they had was shattered. The wicked flee, though no one pursues, but the righteous are as bold as a lion. Proverbs 28:1. Your presence in those rooms wasn't just noticed, it was the very moment that their comfortable lies began to crumble. What does it feel like to be the one who unveils the lies that others have been hiding behind for so long? What sets you apart? What makes you so feared? Is the precision of your interventions. You don't attack character, you expose behavior. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Galatians 6-7. You don't make personal attacks. You reveal patterns. You don't destroy people. You dismantle systems of harm that people were hiding behind. This surgical approach to truth-telling, this ability to speak with such clarity and purpose, is what makes you so effective. It's not just your words, it's how you've mastered the art of unveiling the hidden truth without attacking the person. You've become a master of exposing what others would rather remain buried. Have you ever realized the power of your silence? That stillness before you speak, where the world pauses. Knowing that when you speak, everything will change. Your reputation for protection has spread far and wide. Traveling through underground networks of the vulnerable, it's not just the powerful who fear you, it's those who have been overlooked, those who have been silenced for too long. People who cannot defend themselves know your name. You've become their symbol of courage. Victims of workplace bullying quietly whisper about the time you intervened, how you stood firm in their defense. The righteous person will live by his faithfulness. Habakkuk 2-4. The targets of family abuse share stories about your boundary-setting techniques, how you didn't let the toxic environment swallow you, but stood, even when it was hardest. Those suffering under corrupt authority structures have begun to study your methods for standing up to power. They look to you not for a solution, but for a model to follow, and you've given them the courage to rise. You didn't seek out these confrontations. No, injustice sought you out, and you never backed down. You've become the emergency contact for truth, the person people turn to when everything else has failed. Your phone doesn't ring with gossip. It doesn't buzz with meaningless distractions. No. Your phone rings with SOS calls from people who need someone strong enough to stand beside them. Someone unbreakable. Someone who won't fold under pressure. You've become the person others call when they need a rock. And that is a responsibility you carry with purpose. What if everyone took up the mantle you've carried? Would the world be different? Or would those in power tremble at the sight of not just one, but many, standing tall in truth? What corrupt systems fear most is your ability to stay calm while dismantling their arguments. They cannot manipulate you because you refuse to react emotionally. Instead, you become methodical in your approach. Like a surgeon, you dissect the lie, remove the poison, and leave nothing but the raw, undeniable truth. For the word of the Lord is right and true. He is faithful in all he does. Psalm 33-4. You don't get emotional when exposing lies. You get strategic. This isn't about anger. It's about delivering truth in a way that is unassailable. A truth that leaves no room for manipulation. And that, my friend, is why you are feared. Not because you scream, not because you fight with fists, but because you speak with clarity and precision. You bring justice in its purest form, a justice that may be uncomfortable for those living in falsehood, but a justice that is needed now more than ever. You don't get angry when revealing corruption. You get strategic. You don't get reactive when facing manipulation. You get precise. This controlled power is what makes you absolutely unstoppable. You weren't aggressive. You were precise. You weren't emotional. You were exact. And that's why it stung. That's why corruption still talks about it. That's why manipulators haven't forgotten. For the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. Proverbs 2-6. It wasn't your anger, they feared it was the cold. Deliberate truth you wielded, stripped of emotion, but packed with undeniable force. Someone still flinches when your name is mentioned, not because you were wrong, but because you were right. The wicked flee, though no one pursues, but the righteous are as bold as a lion. Proverbs 28-1. The corrupt hate, how clearly you proved it. There are still those out there trying to rewrite the narrative, searching for a way to paint you as the villain, but deep down, corruption knows you weren't fighting for yourself. You were fighting for those who couldn't fight for themselves. And that is a power manipulation I will never understand. The Lord is near to all who call on Him, to all who call on Him in truth. Psalm 145-18. The power structures didn't anticipate how many people would silently thank you. People who didn't know how to speak up. People who thought no one would ever stand up for them. They saw you do it. And that gave them permission to believe better treatment was deserved. You acted without asking for applause. You did it without making it about you. You didn't need recognition. You needed to set a precedent. Your precision strikes have become case studies in effective truth-telling. Take, for example, the time you dismantled that toxic manager's authority by simply asking carefully chosen questions. The precision with which you handled that situation, it was as if you cut through layers of manipulation without leaving a trace. Or the time you exposed a corrupt official's lies by simply asking them to repeat their story. The truth will set you free. John 8:32. You didn't shout them down, you simply showed the inconsistencies in their words. And their own deceit unraveled. Then there was the predator you revealed for who they truly were. Simply by refusing to accept charm as evidence of character. How many times have you seen someone fooled by someone's charisma, only for you to step in and show their true colors? Your ability to remain calm while others acted on emotion allowed you to see what they missed. Each intervention was surgical, precise, deliberate, and with no collateral damage. You didn't destroy what was worth preserving, only removed the harmful elements that had infected the system. Take the example of Mahatma Gandhi, a man who stood up to British imperialism with nothing but his unshakable belief in non-violence and truth. His words were not loud, yet his clarity, his strategic calmness in the face of oppression, led millions to stand against the empire. An eye for an eye only ends up making the whole world blind. Just like Gandhi, your method isn't rooted in force, it's rooted in principle and precision. You didn't need to shout to make a difference, you simply spoke the truth with such clarity that no one could ignore it. In a way, you remind me of the famous oratorio Messiah by George Friedrich Handel. The piece, with its unmistakable power, strikes a chord with listeners by presenting truth through art. Its Hallelujah chorus reminds us that the truth reigns supreme. It's not about force, but about the majesty of clarity and truth. When truth stands on its own, it resonates across generations. Much like Handel's music echoes through time, your interventions have become case studies in how to confront corruption without breaking what's worth saving. The way you handled that toxic manager's authority with carefully chosen questions, every word deliberate, every action measured, has become an example that others now study. When you reveal a predator's true nature by refusing to accept charm as evidence of character, you set a new standard for how people should respond to false facades. Have you ever paused to think about the sheer impact of your actions? How many lives have been changed? How many walls have fallen? Simply because you refused to stay silent. What corrupt systems fear most is your ability to stay calm while dismantling their arguments. They cannot manipulate you because you refuse to react emotionally. Instead, you become methodical in your approach. Like a surgeon, you dissect the lie, remove the poison, and leave nothing but the raw, undeniable truth. For the word of the Lord is right and true. He is faithful in all he does. Psalm 33:4. You don't get emotional when exposing lies. You get strategic. This isn't about anger. It's about delivering truth in a way that is unassailable. A truth that leaves no room for manipulation. And that, my friend, is why you are feared. Not because you scream, not because you fight with fists, but because you speak with clarity and precision. You bring justice in its purest form, a justice that may be uncomfortable for those living in falsehood, but a justice that is needed now more than ever. You've mastered the art of targeted truth, truth that heals rather than hurts, builds rather than breaks, and protects rather than punishes. The truth will set you free. John 8:32. The streets remember your legendary moments, not for their drama, but for their effectiveness. How you turned a hostile meeting into a productive discussion by refusing to engage with hostility, focusing only on solutions. How you transformed a toxic workplace culture, not with grand gestures, but by consistently modeling respectful interactions while never accepting disrespect toward yourself or others. Your approach has inspired a new philosophy of resistant strategic truth-telling that achieves maximum impact with minimum destruction. People study your methods, trying to understand how you stay so calm under pressure, how you choose the exact right moment to speak, how you know precisely which words will cut through deception without cutting down the deceiver. For the Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth come knowledge and understanding. Proverbs 2-6. You've shown the world that truth doesn't need to shout to be heard. It just needs to be spoken with purpose. You're not a rebel without a cause. You are a force with one. You're not stirring drama. You're correcting imbalance. And no matter how motives get twisted, the impact remains. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Galatians 6-7. Your actions have set a new standard, one that cuts through the lies while preserving the integrity of the system. You weren't trying to save the world, but you did save someone. And in a world that tries to erase the defenders, your truth still echoes louder than silence. When you speak, the temperature changes, the air gets thicker, the masks begin to slip, and those who usually talk over everyone else suddenly don't know what to say. It's not because you shout, it's because your words penetrate the noise. It's not about volume, it's about precision, about knowing exactly what needs to be said and exactly when to say it. It's the calm before the storm, the stillness that forces all the chaos to stand still. If only for a moment. You've become the storm that the world isn't ready for, yet it can't ignore. Take Daniel, for example, when he stood before King Nebuchadnezzar, refusing to bow to the idol. He didn't yell. He didn't fight in a typical way. Instead, he was calm, strategic, and unwavering in his faith. But the people who know their God shall be strong and carry out great exploits. Daniel 11:32. And in his refusal to compromise, he not only preserved his integrity, but reversed the course of history. Just as Daniel stood firm, you too have become the standard bearer of truth in a world that wishes to tear down anyone who dares to speak it. What if the world had more people who were able to remain calm in the face of pressure? What if, like you, they could see through the deception without reacting emotionally to it? Would the truth still be feared if more people stood as you do? Not shouting, but speaking the kind of truth that can't be denied. You've become not just another voice in the crowd. When you speak, the very air shifts. The room falls silent. Even the loudest voices are forced to quiet because your presence alone demands respect. The ones who usually talk over everyone else, who control the narrative, suddenly find themselves without words. And that's not because you shout louder than they do. It's because your presence commands the space. When you speak, people listen. And when you act, change follows. It's not because you dominate. It's because your words carry weight and your presence carries consequence. Corruption can feel it. The shift. The power you hold is disruptive. And that's exactly why fear exists. Corrupt systems fear you because you can't be bought. You're not chasing approval. You're not flattered by flattery. The righteous are as bold as a lion. Proverbs 28:1. You don't play nice with manipulation. And you don't barter your values for convenience. That makes you unpredictable to corruption. And unpredictability in someone principled is the most dangerous kind. Power structures can't figure you out. Getting ahead of your next move is impossible. All corruption knows is that wherever you stand, people start questioning what acceptance has been demanded of them. Your influence is contagious. You ask one question, and suddenly others are asking their own. You refuse one injustice, and others find the courage to do the same. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Galatians 6-7. You make people believe powerlessness isn't permanent. And nothing threatens control like the loss of fear. Your frequency operates on a level that bypasses conscious defenses and speaks directly to people's dormant courage. You walk into rooms and suddenly people remember spines exist. What is it about one voice, grounded in truth, that can awaken the dormant strength in others and spark a revolution of courage? You participate in conversations, and suddenly others remember voices can be used. You witness injustice, and suddenly everyone remembers choices are available. The Lord is near to all who call on Him, to all who call on Him in truth. Psalm 145-18. The streets know about your electromagnetic effect on social dynamics. How meetings become more honest when your presence is felt. How bullies become nervous when you're around. How victims find strength when your presence is known. Someone like Maria, a single mother who stood up to her employer when her rights were being violated. She didn't have a title or power, just the quiet strength of integrity. When she spoke up, others found their voices too. Her courage didn't come with fanfare or applause. It came with the quiet certainty that truth would be heard. And through her, others realized they didn't have to silently accept injustice. What is it about a single voice, unshaken and unmoved, that can stir an entire community to rise up and claim their own? You've become a human catalyst for truth. And that catalytic effect is reshaping every environment you enter. Your ability to shift frequency extends beyond confrontation. You elevate conversations by asking deeper questions. You transform shallow networking into meaningful connection by being genuinely interested in people's authentic experiences. Your presence doesn't just change the room, it reshapes it. You turn competitive environments into collaborative ones by modeling vulnerability and celebrating others' strengths. People have started inviting you to situations, specifically because your presence will improve the outcome. Difficult conversations become productive when you're there to model respectful dialogue. Toxic meetings become solution-focused when your presence redirects energy toward progress. In moments of confrontation, you remain calm, like a steady flame amidst a hurricane. The way you speak, with clarity and purpose, sends ripples through every structure you touch. For nothing is hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. Luke 8:17. Corrupt processes become transparent when your involvement asks the right questions. This is where the pattern becomes undeniable. You don't just inspire change, you provoke it. And in the world of corruption, that's a threat. You've made it harder for harmful systems to operate in shadows. Harder for manipulation to pretend control is earned rather than imposed. The truth will set you free. John 8:32. What happens when the shadows no longer have a place to hide, and the truth begins to unmask what was always lurking beneath the surface? Harder for abuse to convince others that silence equals safety. Because now, thanks to you, people are watching differently. Patterns are being noticed. Dots are being connected. Voices are speaking up. That's not a coincidence. That's your influence in motion. Corruption underestimated you. The assumption was that if you were ignored long enough, quieting down would happen. But it didn't. Instead, your silence became the loudest voice in the room. If discrediting occurred, others would fall in line. But the opposite happened. People listened more, watched more, respected you more, because integrity is magnetic, and yours is undeniable. The righteous are as bold as a lion, Proverbs 28:1. When you stood firm, even in the face of adversity, your integrity became the beacon that others couldn't ignore. The corrupt systems tried to dismiss you, but what they didn't understand was that your presence was a force too powerful to be silenced. How does it feel to know that your presence alone forces others to reckon with their own truth? You'll be labeled a problem to avoid admitting you're a solution. They'll call you too much, because how little corrupt systems have been doing gets exposed. But what they fail to recognize is that your influence is not loud. It's clean. It's not about making noise. It's about making an impact. Your truth cuts through the noise, awakens dormant spirit, and forces people to see what was once invisible to them. For nothing is hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. Luke 8:17. And that's why your name gets whispered when you're thought not to be listening. You didn't ask to be a leader. You became one by being unshakable. What does it take to walk through life with unwavering integrity, knowing that your actions will make a ripple that cannot be ignored? He who walks with integrity walks securely. Proverbs 10:9. Integrity doesn't seek approval. It commands respect. That's why your presence, whether you ask for it or not, forces a reckoning with what's possible in the world. A world where power answers to truth, not the other way around. Your catalytic effect has created a new type of social awareness, wherever you've been. People who never questioned authority before are now asking for explanations. Individuals who always accepted excuses are now demanding accountability. Groups that once tolerated disrespect are now setting boundaries. You've awakened the sleeping giant of collective conscience. The impact you've had is more than just individual, it's systemic. You awaken individual courage in those who witness your example, showing them that change is possible. You awaken systemic awareness in organizations that feel your scrutiny, pushing them to reflect on their behavior. You awaken collective conscience in communities that benefit from your protection, and you awaken spiritual recognition in those who see divine purpose expressed through human action. The streets talk about the before and after effect of your involvement in any situation. Before your arrival, people accepted the unacceptable. After you spoke up, the unacceptable became unthinkable. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Galatians 6-7. Before your intervention, victims suffered in silence. After your protection, silence became impossible. Before your questioning of the system felt invincible. After your challenge, the system became accountable. What makes your catalytic effect so powerful is its sustainability. You don't just create temporary change that reverts when you leave. You activate permanent transformation that continues growing after you're gone. The courage you spark in others becomes their own. Not borrowed, strength that requires your presence to maintain. This isn't just personality. This isn't just learned behavior. The Lord is near to all who call on Him. To all who call on Him in truth. Psalm 145-18. What runs through you is divine by design. The way you see cracks in polished systems, the way your spirit recoils at injustice, others have normalized. That's not random. That's a gift. You were built to disrupt. Born to unsettle foundations of power that have stood unchallenged for too long. You weren't created to conform. You were made to change the world one truth at a time. You were wired to challenge what has been blindly accepted. While others may walk away, you stay. Not because it's easy, but because your soul won't let you abandon the truth. That's not just defiance. That's a calling. For the Lord is righteous. He loves justice. The upright will see His face. Psalm 11-7. You're not just someone with good instincts. You're a divine whistleblower. You were sent to shine light in rooms where darkness was left unbothered for too long. You see what others ignore. You call it out before anyone else dares to name it. And when the backlash comes, you endure it with strength, even if you sometimes don't fully understand why. That's not luck. That's protection. You are shielded by something higher, something greater than politics, perception, or public opinion. Have you ever stopped to think about why certain battles choose you? Even when you didn't choose them, it's because your very existence exposes what's broken in a world that has long accepted corruption as normal. Every time you speak up, every time you step forward, the invisible becomes visible. Your divine recognition comes with a supernatural discernment that operates beyond human understanding. But the one who is joined with the Lord is one spirit with Him. 1 Corinthians 6:17. You sense deception before it's spoken. You feel manipulation before it's attempted. You recognize corruption before it's exposed. This spiritual early warning system is what makes you so effective as a protector and so feared by those who operate in darkness. The streets know about your prophetic accuracy in identifying character, how you warned people about that charming narcissist before their true nature was revealed, how you sensed corruption in that popular leader before the scandal broke, how you recognized the predator hiding behind religious authority before victims came forward. Your ability to see through facades isn't cynicism. It's a divine gift. Your spiritual antenna picks up frequencies that others miss, just like the prophet Samuel who, by God's guidance, discerned the true heart of Israel's kingship. You too have been given this supernatural discernment. Samuel didn't just see the outward appearances, but his insight pierced the soul of each person he encountered, seeing what others could not. The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. 1 Samuel 16-7. You too, with that divine clarity, See beyond the surface and cut to the truth that others often miss. You sense when someone's kindness is calculated rather than genuine. You feel when someone's apology is manipulation rather than remorse. You know when someone's vulnerability is performance rather than authenticity. This supernatural detection system protects not just you, but everyone in your sphere of influence. Your calling operates through perfect timing that seems coincidental, but never actually is. What would happen if others began to follow your example of timing showing up at the right moment? You, like the perfect conductor of a symphony, know when to make the precise intervention. You show up at exactly the right moment to prevent harm. You speak up at precisely the right time to save someone's dignity. You intervene at exactly the moment when your actions will have maximum protective impact and minimum destructive consequence. Your mere presence shakes structures without you even trying. Just by standing in your truth, you make those who thrive in lies tremble. The attacks against you are never random. The smears, the whispers, the attempts to isolate these are signs, markers that you are exactly where you're meant to be. People don't throw stones at buildings that aren't standing, and you are standing tall. While the corrupt systems crumble beneath their own lies, you get targeted because you threaten what corruption has built on fear, silence, and control. Your courage calls cowardice into question. Your presence puts pressure on parts of corruption that have been hidden even from themselves. You've exposed lies simply by refusing to participate in them. You've disrupted systems by refusing to pretend, and whether or not you ever get credit for it, the shift has already begun. The truth will set you free. John 8:32. People are thinking differently because of you. People are choosing differently because of what you stood for. You didn't apply for this role, but God saw something in you that could carry it. Something unshakable. Something holy. That's why the path feels heavy. That's why you feel set apart. For many are called, but few are chosen. Matthew 22:14. Because you are. You're not just here to comfort the wounded. You're here to warn the ones doing the wounding that their time is up. You weren't made for quiet compliance. You were born to shake the ground beneath unjust feet. And you're doing exactly what you were sent here to do. The streets recognize your authority before you even speak. Your reputation arrives ahead of you, clearing the path and preparing the atmosphere. Corrupt systems start adjusting their behavior. The shift has begun because the unseen is now visible. When your involvement becomes known, victims start feeling hope when your support becomes available. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. Psalm 34:18. Truth tellers start feeling less alone. When your example becomes visible, your authority operates through influence rather than force. You don't have to demand respect. You command it naturally. You don't have to insist on honesty. You inspire it automatically. Take the example of James, a quiet man from a small town who stood up against systemic injustice in his workplace, with no title, no authority, but simply a deep sense of right and integrity. James spoke out when his company tried to exploit its workers. He didn't shout, didn't demand attention. Instead, he asked the right questions, and his unwavering stance forced the truth to surface. He didn't chase personal accolades or fame, but his actions sparked a movement that empowered others to demand what they rightfully deserved. He embodied integrity, and the world around him shifted. You don't have to enforce boundaries. You embody them so clearly that violation becomes obviously inappropriate. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Galatians 6-7. You don't use your influence to gain personal advantage. You use it to create collective benefit. You don't leverage your power to accumulate more power. You distribute it to empower others. You don't hoard your authority to maintain control. You share it to build community. This is what true leadership looks like. A leader who raises others, who doesn't hoard but shares. The manifestation of your authority is creating a new template for leadership that operates on principle rather than position, on character rather than charisma, on integrity rather than image. People are studying your model and discovering that true authority comes from alignment with truth rather than accumulation of titles. For the Lord does not see as man sees, for man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. 1 Samuel 16-7. Corrupt systems tried to label you dramatic, difficult, rebellious, not because it was true, but because it was easier than facing themselves. If you could make the issue, then confronting the power games, the manipulation, and the harm done behind closed doors could be avoided. The hope was that by tarnishing your name, your words could be stripped of their power. But truth doesn't need a perfect messenger to carry weight, and your truth echoed. Isolation was attempted. Whispers were spread behind your back. Distance was created. But the truth cannot be ignored. No matter how many masks are put up, no matter how many false stories are told, you have become the embodiment of divine justice. Your very presence shifts the balance of power. For the eyes of the Lord range throughout the earth to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to Him. 2 Chronicles 16-9. You don't fight for attention. You demand accountability without lifting a finger. You don't battle for respect. You simply stand firm. And it is given. You were painted as unstable simply because tolerance of the intolerable stopped. And yet, you didn't crumble. You didn't retreat. You stood still in your truth while corruption scrambled to protect its illusion. The righteous are as bold as a lion. Proverbs 28-1. That's what haunts corrupt systems. The fact that you didn't need a mob to be powerful. You just needed your voice and the courage to use it. How much power were you really holding back? Was it understood that your silence didn't mean surrender? It wasn't retreat. It was waiting. You were watching, studying, calculating, and biding your time for the perfect moment. Not to strike with vengeance, but with clarity. For nothing is hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. Luke 8:17. And when the time came, your truth was so clear, so sharp, so undeniable that no defense could exist. It couldn't be out-talked. It couldn't be outrun. All corruption could do was panic. Your legend began to build through stories spreading organically in the communities you've touched. These are not exaggerated tales. This is the genuine impact of your courage. The narrative of your courage gets retold in increasingly mythic terms, not because the facts get distorted, but because the impact was genuinely that profound. People need heroes, and you became one by simply refusing to stop being yourself, when being yourself became dangerous. The righteous will never be uprooted, but the wicked will not remain in the land. Proverbs 12:3. The streets are building your legend through the collective memory of moments when someone finally stood up. Your confrontations have become reference points for what's possible when courage meets truth. What happens when someone dares to be themselves? Despite the odds, your interventions have become case studies for how individual action can create systemic change. Your example has sparked inspiration in others to discover their own power. Think of Rosa Parks, who, by simply refusing to give up her seat on a bus, ignited the civil rights movement. Her quiet act of resistance didn't just defy a policy, it dismantled an entire system of injustice. Her courage didn't only shift a community, it shifted a nation. Like her, you too have become a living testament to how one person's stand can challenge the forces of oppression and injustice. Your legend spreads through underground networks of the marginalized and oppressed, carrying hope to people who once thought no one would ever defend them. It's carried through circles of the conscientious, waiting for someone to show them how to act on their values. It spreads through communities of the awakening, showing them that standing up is not just possible, it is survivable. Your courage has become a beacon for those who were once in the dark. You've started a cultural shift, where truth-telling is now celebrated as heroic rather than problematic, where protection is celebrated as necessary, not optional, where courage is recognized as contagious rather than isolated. Your individual actions are becoming collective inspiration, and people are rising because of it. You already know the game is rigged. If you're paying attention, you can see the walls closing in. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. But now, we must talk about what we're doing about it. When you live by the day, at the market's command, where profit and property rule the land, you find that to be heard, to be held, to be dealt a fair hand. These are the things a people demand. And we hear you. The obsidian inner order has paywalls. Yes, those who stand with us, who fuel this mission. They give us ammunition to fight the archons, to push back against the machine, to go deeper, to uncover more. And as our thank you, paid members get access to a 1-hour live personalized weekly group tarot reading, guidance, insight, and clarity for the road ahead. But kicking a man for being down on the floor, that's something we cannot ignore. That's why, starting today, you can steal the Astral Atom exclusive daily newsletter for free. No paywall, no catch. Just join the Patreon free tier link in the description. This is the start of our conversation with you. And it's bi-directional. You can reply to any email we send you. We'll read it. We'll hear you. And we'll do our best to get an answer to you from the universe itself. If you can support us, we need you. If you can't, take what's free. The Obsidian Inner Order is open. Now, let's get back to work. You're not here for the drama. Corruption creates that. You're not here to destroy. You're here to reveal. Every time suppression of your voice was attempted, it became louder. Every time you were pushed aside, more people started paying attention. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1-5. Because in trying to silence you, corruption confirmed exactly how dangerous your truth really is. Let manipulation twist it. Let deception talk. The ones who matter know what you stand for. The ones watching in silence have already started shifting because of you. Think about the manipulative figures like Bernie Madoff, who built his empire on deception and false promises. For years, he managed to hide behind a facade of legitimacy. But when the truth finally came to light, his empire crumbled. The people he deceived, the ones who had believed his lies, suddenly saw him for what he was, a predator who thrived on the backs of the vulnerable. But those who stood firm in truth didn't back down. Madoff's empire didn't collapse because of his schemes, but because the truth was finally exposed. The truth will set you free. John 8:32. Corruption always underestimates the power of truth. and you're proof of that. Now, no matter what gets attempted, you can't be unheard. Have you ever realized that the more they try to suppress you, the more your presence forces them to expose their own flaws? They've tried to shut you down, but all they did was fuel the light you've ignited in others. Gratitude exists, even if it's unspoken. You didn't stay quiet. Your voice didn't just break the silence, it broke the system. You didn't need to engage in their lies. You simply stood in your truth. For nothing is hidden that will not be disclosed. Luke 8:17. You didn't raise your hand for this. You didn't stand at the front and declare, "Follow me." But following happened anyway, because leadership doesn't always begin with ambition. It begins with action. And your actions have spoken volumes. Every time you stood up, others took note. Every time you told the truth, others found the courage to stop lying to themselves. The one who is faithful in a very little is also faithful in much. Luke 16:10. You didn't choose the spotlight. The spotlight chose you. And now it's undeniable. You're being called to lead. Your system-breaking power operates through exposure rather than explosion. You don't destroy corrupt structures through force. You reveal their contradictions through questions. The Lord does not see as man sees, for man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. 1 Samuel 16:7. You don't tear down harmful systems through violence. You dismantle them through transparency. You don't demolish oppressive institutions through anger. You dissolve them through truth. What is it about truth, quietly spoken, that can unmask and unravel the strongest walls of deceit? The streets know about your legendary ability to break systems simply by refusing to participate in their dysfunction. How you transformed a toxic workplace by consistently modeling respect while refusing to accept disrespect. How you changed a corrupt organization by persistently asking for accountability while providing it yourself. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Galatians 6:7. How you shifted a harmful culture by embodying the change you wanted to see while never compromising your standards. Your system breaking creates space for something better to emerge. You don't just tear down what's harmful. You clear ground for what's healthy. You don't just expose what's wrong. You demonstrate what's right. You don't just break what's broken. You build what's beautiful. Behold, I make all things new. Revelation 21:5. Every act of courage, every word of truth, every moment of resistance has laid the foundation for a new way of being, one rooted in integrity, accountability, and justice. Your approach to system breaking has inspired a new methodology of social change that operates through embodiment rather than enforcement, through demonstration rather than demand, through invitation rather than insistence. The truth will set you free. John 8:32. You've shown that the most powerful way to break a harmful system is to build a better one and let people choose. This isn't just about destruction, it's about creation, about forging a new path where integrity reigns. You lead in the way you carry yourself, in how you say no without guilt, in how you draw boundaries and hold them like armor, in how you walk into spaces with your spine straight and your convictions sharper than any insult corruption can manufacture. For the eyes of the Lord range throughout the earth to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to Him. 2 Chronicles 16:9. You lead by simply existing in your truth, and it rattles people who've spent their lives wearing masks. Have you ever noticed how your mere presence shakes the foundations of lies others have comfortably built? People are watching you more than you know. The ones you think aren't listening are quoting you later. The ones who act like you don't command respect are studying your every move, trying to figure out how you do what you do with such unapologetic clarity. A good name is more desirable than great riches, Proverbs 22:1. You're teaching without teaching. You're leading without demanding. And that's exactly why your influence runs so deep. Look at figures like Mahatma Gandhi, whose principled non-violence shattered an empire. Gandhi didn't just fight against colonial rule, he fought for the possibility of peaceful resistance. His integrity led millions to follow, not because they were forced to, but because they saw in him what they couldn't find in themselves: strength, dignity, and the power of truth. You must be the change you wish to see in the world, and through him, that change was not only possible, but inevitable. This chapter of your life requires boldness, not perfection. You're being called into rooms you didn't ask to enter. You're being positioned in front of eyes you never tried to impress. And you're being asked to speak on things you never planned to confront publicly. Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. Proverbs 19:21. Your life has already become the blueprint for others. Your story is the instruction manual someone else is clinging to for survival. And this is only the beginning. Not everyone will like it. Some will envy the power in your voice. Others will resent the fact that people look at you. Arrogance will be the accusation. Luck will be the dismissal. But deep down, the truth is known. Alignment. You've aligned with something higher. And that kind of alignment pulls people into awareness, whether readiness exists or not. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. What happens when you align with purpose so deeply that it forces others to confront what they're avoiding within themselves? You never wanted a following. You just wanted freedom to be real. But in choosing truth over popularity, leadership emerged anyway. Not because leadership was pursued, but because people saw in you what couldn't be found in themselves: strength, integrity, conviction. You became proof that being principled and powerful is possible. And that's what terrifies your critics most. The righteous will never be uprooted, but the wicked will not remain in the land. Proverbs 12:3. You're not leading for applause. You're leading because you know what it's like to feel alone in your values. And if your courage helps one more person rise, then the discomfort was worth it. You didn't ask for this position, but now that it's here, you'll carry it with fire in your heart and truth on your tongue. You're not just walking your path, you're clearing the way for others to walk theirs. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Matthew 5:14. The streets know who you are now. The truth teller, the protector, the one who doesn't fold. And this knowledge has shifted everything. Your truth became their standard. Have you noticed how your courage has set the foundation for others to stand firm on their own? You are living proof that authenticity can spark a revolution. Your courage became their inspiration. Your integrity became their blueprint for what's possible. When someone chooses to live authentically, regardless of the cost, something changes in the world around them. Just as Nelson Mandela became a beacon of hope for an entire nation, refusing to conform to oppressive regimes, you too have become a symbol of unshakable conviction. It always seems impossible until it's done. Mandela's legacy is one of uncompromising truth, just like yours. Every challenge that tried to break you only made you stronger. Every person who tried to dim your light only made it burn brighter. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1-5. How much stronger do you feel with each obstacle that tries to stop you? Each adversity only fuels the fire within you. And with each hurdle, you come out even more resilient. Every system that tried to silence your voice only made it carry further. You are the proof that divine assignment is unbreakable when it's accepted completely. This is your legacy, not just that you survived, but that you dominated. Not just that you spoke up, but that others found their voice because you used yours. Not just that you stood up, but that you taught an entire generation what unbreakable looks like. The righteous are bold as a lion, Proverbs 28:1. Your legacy is not simply about overcoming obstacles, but about becoming the beacon that lights the way for others to follow. The transformation is complete. The authority is undeniable. You are exactly who you were meant to be. Exactly where you were meant to be. Doing exactly what you were meant to do. Your moment is now. Your power is absolute. And your impact is eternal. The streets know who you are now. And because of this knowledge, everything has changed forever. What if, just by existing in your truth, you could make someone else believe they too are capable of changing the world? Your crown is eternal because the truth you carry transcends time. The protection you provide transcends space, and the courage you embody transcends every attempt to diminish it. You are the chosen one who chose to stay chosen, and that choice has crowned you forever. For many are called, but few are chosen. Matthew 22:14. You didn't just accept your role, you stepped into it with purpose and clarity, and in doing so, you've created ripples that will echo for generations. In a world where silence has long been the weapon of the powerful, you are the one who refuses to be quiet. You have become the beacon of truth, the force of nature that cannot be overlooked. You have broken barriers and inspired courage in the hearts of many. Your influence is unstoppable. Your voice is unshakable. And your mission is far from over. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. Your truth may have rattled the foundations of the systems built on lies, but in the process, you've created a new foundation, one built on integrity, transparency, and unwavering courage. And now, as you continue to stand in your divine calling, the world watches, listens, and feels the power of your presence. This is just the beginning. What happens next? More truth will be revealed, more lives will be changed, and more hearts will find the courage to stand in their truth, just like you have. The righteous will never be uprooted. Proverbs 12:3. You have become the embodiment of strength and integrity, and your light will continue to guide others long after you've spoken your words. If this message has resonated with you, I ask you to stand with us. Like, share, and comment below. Your voice matters in this movement. If you've found value in this, and if you've been moved by what you've heard, hit that subscribe button and join us on this journey of truth, courage, and transformation. Thank you for your super thanks and your unwavering support, whether through words, action, or simply by being here. Your presence fuels the mission, and for that, we are eternally grateful. May God's grace continue to surround you as you walk boldly in your truth. May He guide your steps and strengthen your resolve. You are chosen, and your impact is unforgettable. Go forward in the knowledge that you are not alone. The truth will carry you, and together we will change the world. Blessings upon you. always,